Tonight, an exclusive 5 on Your Side investigation takes you inside a hidden world of abuse, sexual assault, and neglect.
It's an investigation that's already prompting calls for reform. 5 on Your Side Chief Investigator Regan joins us tonight with how it happens and a state agency that often fails to act.
Well, our investigation found how those with criminal backgrounds are being given access to people with disabilities. Plus, many who provide services routinely ignore health and safety regulations. Listen to what happened to Sherry.
I'd get that out of there for you.
Sherry's disability began at birth. She grew up here at home, protected and cared for. But 40 years later, her mother's now ailing heart was broken again.
Oh my God, no, this can't be what this is going to.
Instead of being bused to a daycare, Sherry was driven to this deserted lot. Documents we obtained from the Ohio Department of Developmental Disabilities describe what happened next.
And his semen was on her coat and everything.
Darrell Scott Burton was the driver. He was charged with rape.
She had told me that he had put something in her mouth, had climbed up on her wheelchair. And I knew then there was mud all over her wheelchair. And it was all there, you know, you knew what she was talking about.
But we found Burton never spent a day in prison. Rape was reduced to patient endangerment.
I don't understand how the state can let this slide by under their fingers and let these companies continue providing services for the disabled and get by with it.
Burton worked here, Caring Hands of Stark County, where state records show a serious pattern of non-compliance for 2 full years, including failure to check criminal backgrounds. So we did, and quickly found Burton's 1993 theft conviction in Ohio, and another one, this time a criminal history in Minnesota, including drugs, assault, and fleeing police. Todd Brown was Caring Hands president.
I didn't ever check it. I knew of Scott, but I never checked. I hired people to do it, and they didn't double check like they were supposed to.
And did you think he was a good hire?
I didn't. He was a bus driver. I mean, to be a bus driver, I don't know anything about who we hired at the time.
But it took Sherry's sexual assault to finally shut it down.
They're putting our handicapped people in a situation where they can really be hurt, just like Sherry.
And our investigation found some providers routinely place the disabled at risk. We reviewed 165 inspection reports in Cuyahoga County alone over the last 5 years. We found 874 serious compliance violations, including lack of first aid and CPR training, failure to check abuser registries, and no criminal background checks. Checks that later found aggravated murder, drug trafficking, and burglary charges. Even so, providers are rarely put out of business.
It's really hard to close a place down.
We shared our findings with Ohio's leading advocacy group for the disabled.
And I think what you're uncovering is that it's not actually working.
I will continue reliving it till I go to my grave, I'm sure.
And Sherry's abuse is not an isolated case. In 2012, we found over 1,000 cases of abuse and neglect. And Ohio's Department of Developmental Disabilities declined our request for an on-camera interview.
And Ron, this is a 6-month investigation that turned up information that families never knew even existed?
Well, that's exactly right. In this case, Sherry's mom had no idea until her daughter was assaulted that criminal background checks were not done. Now, tomorrow at 5, we'll show you what we found inside inspection reports but are not easily accessible. Plus, we're putting information into your hands. We've created an easily searchable database. You can log on to newsnet5.com to learn who is on a statewide abuser registry.
All right. Thank you very much, Ron.
They are victims of sexual or physical assault and neglect. Tonight we continue an exclusive 5 on Your Side investigation.
And 5 on Your Side Chief Investigator Ron Regan is here right now with how some providers for people with disabilities ignore basic health and safety regulations and stay in business.
Well, that's right. We found of the nearly 1,600 service providers reviewed last year across Ohio, 600 failed to follow state regulations. Only 28 had their certifications revoked. And the state agency that's supposed to protect the disabled often fails to act.
Somebody's got to crack down on this.
Her daughter was sexually assaulted by this man. The provider that hired him failed to check criminal backgrounds. And our investigation found some providers routinely place the disabled at risk. We reviewed 165 inspection reports in Cuyahoga County alone over the last 5 years. We found 874 serious compliance violations.
I don't understand how the state can let this slide by under their fingers.
Shelby's Guardian Angels in Canton is another example. Despite a pattern of serious non-compliance, it took state regulators more than 2 full years to revoke its certification. We shared our findings with Ohio's leading advocacy group for the disabled.
The provider's interests have greater protections than the interests of the people that they're serving.
But even with a revoked certification, the agency remains open, appealing the case. Your certification should be revoked.
Exactly.
Do you agree?
No, I don't. No, I don't. No,
Why?
I don't. Why? Because a lot of that, I think it was a witch hunt. I think they were out to get us.
And Evant Incorporated in Summit County is another example. Its certification was suspended by state regulators in March 2012. Tammy Everett grew up severely disabled. At 54, she lived in this Evant home. Her brother believes life-threatening pneumonia was ignored all night.
I'm not calling for, help until the next morning. It was pretty much too late by the time they finally got her to the hospital.
State regulators found allegations of neglect were substantiated, and documents related to the investigation were shredded. But there's more. 2 weeks later, at another Evant home, another death. This time, investigators found staff failed to call 911 until a woman began vomiting like a fire hydrant. Finally, at a third Evant home, a disabled man was found dead in a bathtub after being left alone. 3 deaths in 5 months. Even so, Ohio's Department of Developmental Disabilities, the state agency that's supposed to protect the disabled, restored Evant's certification within 4 months, finding proper care is being provided.
It's really hard to close a place down.
Evant declined comment, citing 2 pending lawsuits.
Operators know that there really are no serious consequences.
I think they count on it.
Well, we wanted to ask state regulators exactly what it takes to shut down providers who ignore basic health and safety regulations. The agency declined an on-camera interview. Next at 6, how the state keeps inspection reports out of public view, leaving families in the dark. Plus, what's happening now as a result of our investigation. I'm Chief Investigator Ron Regan.
Swift reaction tonight following an exclusive 5 on Your Side investigation. We first revealed how people with disabilities across Ohio are often placed at serious risk. On Your Side, Chief Investigator Ron Regan joins us now. And Ron, your investigation is generating national attention and calls for reform.
Well, our investigation revealed that the state agency that's supposed to protect the disabled in Ohio often fails to act. Plus, we found even basic health and safety regulations are routinely ignored, and service providers can operate in near total secrecy. Tonight, there are calls for a new state law. From the State House,
it's shocking, and it shows a failure in the system.
To Washington.
I commend you for bringing attention to these issues.
Our investigation found some providers routinely place the disabled at risk. We reviewed 165 inspection reports in Cuyahoga County alone over the last 5 years. We found 874 serious compliance violations. State Senator Mike Skindle.
The reporting that you're doing exposes what is going on in the system.
Statewide, more than 1,600 inspection reports were completed last year by the Ohio Department of Developmental Disabilities. Not one is available online, nor are they routinely published or distributed. Daniel Wright's completing a master's degree in social work.
I believe in empowerment, so empowering people to make their own decisions and do what's right for them and their families.
And he understands in his own life how people with disabilities would benefit from making inspection reports more widely available.
Allow people to read reviews, see who you can trust with your loved ones and maybe who you can't trust.
As a result, Senator Skindle is introducing new legislation.
So that a family can go online and actually see a survey or investigation report result.
And in Washington, the National Down Syndrome Society is also calling for greater transparency.
Having legislation that's passed through your state legislature, signed by the governor, and put into law so that it's actually mandated that this information be publicly available to anybody who wants it.
And Ohio's proposed legislation would be similar to laws already on the books in Idaho, Arizona, and Hawaii. And it's something Ohio's already doing for child care. With just a click, you can find every inspection report for every daycare center across Ohio. The same's true for nursing homes. But Lee, without this new law on the books, those with disabilities are just left plain in the dark.
Well, you are shining a light on just a terrible situation and really giving them a voice. And hopefully now this is going to get more oversight and see some resolution.
Well, my heart just goes out to these folks who need a voice.
Absolutely. All right. Ron, thank you.
You bet.